And today we'll have a bonus word. And we've used it before, and you've used it as well today. And that is the word track. We're not talking about like what they do at the Olympics, right? With
or
track. Is it something different? What does track mean?
It can mean a couple different things, to be honest. In music production, a track could be an individual instrument that you're recording one at a time when you're creating a composition. So, for instance, I might have 5 different string instruments that I'm wanting to record, but I'm only recording one at a time, so I'll put each individual one on a track.
For me, I'm more of like the front end of it.
I'm just making it up. Of a similar nature or character.
JMKast. JMKast.
But we get shocked often by Chris.
You Google my name, it always pulls up Ric Flair and Blackjack Mulligan. That's another story for another time, though. And as always, it's that other time in another story.
Oh, this one's going to be fun.
Absolutely.
This is actually what? We're doing this because we decided to split one in half.
We had to.
Well,
it was too much good content to put it in one episode.
Yeah, and it was almost an hour long, and it
right.
was like, we like to keep these a little shorter. So, anyway, this is going to be part 2 of Not Cody Markham. Cody Martin.
Cody Martin, the composer,
from SoundStripe,
phenomenal composer who primarily works with SoundStripe, but has other avenues. Yeah. He's done some movies, things like that.
Working on some documentaries.
Yeah.
I mean, he told about he described all kinds of things. In the first part, we pretty much played a couple of tunes, and he described kind of the process of what it's like being in licensing, and all that. And in this one, we're gonna hear one of what was our favorite piece of the ones that he gave us.
Yeah, we hear it a second time.
We're gonna hear it again on this one.
So good.
It is so good, and then we're gonna go on to other stuff. Yeah. You'll hear another score or another track.
2 or 3. 2?
Is it score or track?
Score.
Preview.
You know what? He talks about it, so we'll let Cody tell you.
Anyway, it's a little preview for what's coming up. Anyway, but it's Cody Martin, not Cody Markham. Sorry, Cody Markham. We're not talking about you today. He's a guy we play poker and worked with at WFA. Yeah. So little inside joke, but we think it's funny. Anyway, here's Cody Martin.
Enjoy part 2.
Part 2.
Like, share, subscribe.
Yes, subscribe, comment, all those fun things. And thanks for watching, listening. Hey, you can see me. I was about to say bye.
I was going to say, why are you introing?
Okay, part 2. We're out of here. So you gave us a few options to play today to like kind of listen to and get an idea of things that you have composed that are on SoundStripe. First one I'm going to play is called Dark Night. Let's play and just listen to a little bit of it.
That was fantastic. Was just out of curiosity, is Knight spelled K-N-I-G-H-T?
No.
I was like, I can see some Batman influence there, maybe. It's fantastic. That's incredible.
There's a lot of Hans Zimmer influence onto that track. So they've got it was one of those things. It's so funny. It's technically not spelled Dark Knight as in K-N-I-G-H-T. It's NIGHT. So
Smart. Yeah. It sounds very...
need to keep it's a kind of funny thing when you're working with licensing tracks, because you create styles and certain type of rhythms and arrangements that are suited for certain styles and genres, and a lot of times what a filmmaker or someone will use, they'll just go into the search bar and just type in, oh well, this is I want to look for something that sounds like Hans Zimmer, or they'll just hashtag Dark Knight, or like Dune, or whatever it is that it might be, that they're wanting to find something similar to, and the music and the algorithm on SoundStripe will just kind of bring you to songs that sound similar to those. And I've done my best to kind of categorize the names to the styles in which that they best represent.
Let's hear one more that you gave us. It's Sundust. Feel that like it's spacey.
Mm-hmm. Ethereal.
I could see myself in space.
I love that all three of them sound completely different.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm sitting there listening. I was like, I wanted to find the through line to where I'm like, oh, that's definitely good.
That's Cody Martin.
That's impressive, man. Those are three completely different tracks.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I've really done my best, I guess, to and incorporate, is to create different sounds and templates almost in every project that I do for them. So when people ask me like, well, do you want to be famous? And I'll be like, no, I'm cool with, being that guy that wrote that one thing that you heard, like, I mean, when it comes to, the music side of things, I like that aspect of just being able to write something, and, unless someone's like a diehard fan, they're not going to know it's me. And in a lot of ways, it really does make it easier for me and the business that I run, because all of these projects, I have anywhere from 30 to maybe 100 plus tracks, that are moving in and out during an arrangement or during a composition. And I have probably over 400 of these projects just sitting in my computer that I can scrap everything that I've recorded and start from scratch and have a very unique template suited to that style that I could repeat. So if someone contacts me for a film and says, hey, we really like this one track that you did, like I already know what template I'm going to use and what arrangement of instruments that I want to incorporate into whatever project it is that they're wanting to do. So at the end of the day, it sounds like saves a ton of time.
That's awesome.
So
just out of curiosity, do you have a Mount Rushmore of film composers?
A Mount Rushmore of film composers.
Top 4 all time.
That is really clever. That's the first time I've ever heard something like that. That's funny. I would probably. I listen to. I probably listen to Thomas Newman, Hans Zimmer, Michael Giacchino, and what's a good fourth one that I listen to all the time?
John Williams. No.
It's got to be John Williams. It's got to be right.
Is that like a generic answer? I feel like that might just be. Who's listening to the Star Wars soundtrack? Come on.
Oh, John Williams. Yeah, he. Surprisingly, he is probably on the lower end of my list, because I'm not one that is what you would call classically trained. A lot of the I picked up music by ear, so I'm a big ear guy. And obviously, as you learn music, you start to learn the actual structure and the rules and what works well with another. But for the most part, the classical approach that John Williams has is just, on another level.
Got it. What about
it's so classical, and just in the sense of just the style and when it was used for for movie theatrics and for in the film industry, period. Like everything's so different now than what it was, even 20 years ago. So, I probably don't listen to Williams near as much. Maybe Howard Shore. Howard Shore is another one that I listen to a lot. His stuff is spectacular, and he is also pretty classically based. So that's probably why he's kind of in the fourth slot.
What do you think about the guys that did all the Stranger Things sound?
I really followed. I guess I wouldn't necessarily call myself like a synth geek. There's a guy that I know in Los Angeles, Tony Anderson. He does licensing as well, doing a lot longer. But he's a big synth guy, and he uses synths literally on almost every project, as far as I'm aware, that he does, and he's awesome at it. And I've dabbled in that every now and then, and I can create that sort of stuff, but it's pretty rare for me to hop into that area. I'll give you a good example. Like right now, I'm working on this summer. I've been working on a suspense thriller indie feature. And it was very they like the director basically told me, like, I want something that's really similar to, like, Trent Reznor, Social Network synthetic stuff, and like Alfred Hitchcock's, like, Psycho, and so I was like, wow, that's really, really different. Those are two really, really different styles to throw together. So it was really interesting, but it's probably been the most fun project I've worked on, because it's so unique and original, and you have a lot of those really low synth pulses, and it's very, I wouldn't call it Stranger Things-ish, but it's definitely in that same field of music, I guess is the best way I can describe it. But
that reminds me of a question I had thought of yesterday when I knew we were going to talk to you. We had the discussion on when we watch movies, if we can turn it off or not. So when you watch a movie, can you turn the job off, or like how critical are you listening to the music and all that's being scored?
Sorry, can you rephrase that question for me so I make sure I'm actually answering that properly?
Like, I can't stand bad edits. So I see bad edits and it makes me angry. So his question's kind of like, do you hear music where they break a rule or they do something, and does it take you out of it?
Like what I
you mean if you're watching it, you mean musically, when they break the rules musically?
Yeah.
Or just something you would have done differently when you're watching a movie, something like that.
Yeah, surprisingly, I don't notice it. I think it's easier to analyze visual mistakes than audible mistakes, unless it's blatantly obvious that the mistake is there on purpose.
Okay.
So for instance, like a good example would be if I'm watching a scene in the movie and there's someone singing and the singing just is horrible, like it's one of those things to where you're like, yeah, that was obviously horrible, but it was horrible on purpose. Gotcha. I think it's harder for people to find mistakes in scoring. You have to really butcher your score if you're hearing something wrong with the music. A lot of times, like Hans Zimmer has a pretty good rule, and I agree with it 100%. If you stick to the rules, you're going to be very limited to what you can do. And when you break the rules, it opens up a lot more opportunity to do something unique that people are going to remember, because at the end of the day, you're writing what feels right to what you're visualizing. And so if you're too anal about the rules, then you might be limiting yourself to what you could actually do. So I break rules all the time, but but only when I deem it necessary. I guess the thriller film that I'm working on is a good example, because like right now, a lot of the music for the film is very dissonant, and it's creepy. It's creepy music. It's very on the edge of your seat sort of music. So a lot of times you're adding in notes that you normally would not be adding in, to, create a certain feeling of fear or suspense or whatever it may be. And so sometimes, playing I shouldn't say playing bad, but playing, against the rules is more beneficial in your favor than it is to stick strictly with, what your classical theoretical instructor in college told you.
All right, then. Well, while we get ready to kind of close up our show on this particular podcast, we've dabbled in a little composition of our own, would you say?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so to start off this little segment that we do, and we got a couple of gems for you coming, Cody. So anyway, here's our little composition. I'm going to play it real quick.
Word of the day.
Word of the day.
Word of the day.
Word of the day.
I like it.
All right. Well, that is now officially word of the day.
Intro music for word of the day.
And it's that time. Word of the day.
And the word of the day today is...
What do you think, Cody? What do you think? What do you think the word's going to be?
What is the word of the day, Greg?
I surprisingly, it's still not coming through my phone. So I'm having
you didn't hear word of the day.
Oh, he didn't hear a word of the day intro. Shoot.
Oh, you didn't get to hear our song. We so cleverly put together for you.
So, okay, for a quick edit point, say, that was amazing. That's the best thing I've ever heard.
Anyway, we do this little segment called Word of the Day where I introduce like words from, video production or whatever. And I think two words, and you've you have said them a few times within this, and I don't want people to get confused, and most people will probably know what some of this stuff is, but one term you've used is score. You're not talking about like what happens at the football game, right?
Right.
So what is a score when you're talking about a score?
Yes, a score is what I would define as writing music to a playing image or to a moving picture. A score is basically essentially writing music to fit a certain time or space that's designated for a moving picture or a scene in a film. That's typically why they call it a film score as opposed to a album for a movie. It's a unique term that I honestly probably didn't fully understand until I was probably closer to like 25. Because I was like, I'm just gonna write like a random composition. Like for example, like a lot of the tracks that I create for SoundStripe, I wouldn't call scores. I would call them compositions because I write them without having to look at a picture. Whereas if I'm writing for a film and I'm creating a soundtrack, a lot of times, I will be writing the music to whatever footage I'm actually given through the producer or the director. That's the best way that I can kind of break it down and from that perspective.
I think I have a different look on the word score now. I think I always just thought it was the music for a movie. So I now have a much better understanding of the creator's intent there. So that's a great way to describe that word.
And today we'll have a bonus word. And we've used it before, and you've used it as well today. And that is the word track. We're not talking about like what they do at the Olympics, right?
Or sort of train
is it something different? What does track mean?
It can mean a couple different things, to be honest. In music production, a track could be an individual instrument that you're recording one at a time when you're creating a composition. So, for instance, I might have 5 different string instruments that I'm wanting to record, but I'm only recording one at a time. So I'll put each individual one on a track onto my onto Logic and just record one at a time. But then I could also be referring to the track as a whole, being the whole song or the whole musical piece that's finished, mastered, and mixed and finalized. That I could also be describing that specifically. So it has a couple different terms. It just depends how much you're wanting to surgically dig into the term.
Yeah, I think that's good enough.
I think you did a pretty good job with both of those. So that's
cool.
Another segment of Word of the day.
Word of the day is my
Solid.
favorite part of the week. So
Yeah. So anyway, we thank you for spending some time with us, Cody, and
really
letting
appreciate
us
Yeah,
hear
absolutely.
some of your music. I mean, we could probably talk to you like all day. But
I
be honest.
literally have 100 more questions I could
Yeah,
probably ask.
we have so many questions.
Real quick, where can the people find you?
Yeah, you can find me a couple different places. I'll name a couple off the bat. In regards to licensing music, you can find a lot of my stuff on SoundStripe, and that's just under Cody Martin. If you search my name, I'll come right up. I'm typically somewhere on the main page anyway, so you just, if you dig around a little bit, you'll find me. I'm on another licensing platform called Artlist. My moniker / artist name on that platform is CK Martin. And then you can go to my personal website, which is www.codykurtzmartin.com. Kurtz is spelled with a Z at the end, so don't don't mess that one up. Otherwise, you'll end up somewhere else.
And you can find us on iTunes and most any platform that does a podcast. And I hear we're even on YouTube.
We are on YouTube,
Wow.
which is my favorite place to watch us.
Yeah. So
And ours, too.
we're the JMKast, and
Like, share, subscribe, share,
yeah.
get us to your friends.
it's Oscar time.
It is Oscar time. This is where we have to play.
This is
off
where we
each other.
play ourselves off the show.
Cody, again, thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you,
us.
Cody.
Chris, you
Absolutely,
as well.
fellas.
Harvey, thank you so much for sitting third chair.
Thank you, guys.
Greg, Rick, we are out of here. We'll see you guys next week.
Like, subscribe, comment. Bye.